Hi guys, so Boris Johnson is his own worst enemy. Now this is a fantastic compilation of clips from Boris Johnson in Parliament talking about a lockdown. And in this series of clips, thanks to the Parliamentarian channel who uploaded this, this series of clips is Boris criticising the Labour Party for suggesting a second lockdown. So let's hear what he had to say.
I may say that it is a bit incoherent of the right honourable gentleman opposite to attack local lockdowns when he wants to plunge the whole country, back into a damaging lockdown for weeks on end, and he has no clue about how he would propose to get the country out of that.
So I talked about this at the time. I said, look, we're heading towards a lockdown. And isn't it ironic that Boris Johnson is criticising Keir Starmer for suggesting the action that Boris Johnson is now taking? Boris Johnson criticising Keir Starmer for suggesting a lockdown. And he was using this as a political football against the opposition. Now, I'm pretty sure Boris Johnson knew at the time we will have to go into a lockdown. Sage were probably advising it to him. But he decided anyway, no, we're going to continue with the broken model that we have.
Does he? I may say that I think that his policy, I've explained why I don't believe that his policy is the right one for the country, because it would involve closing schools, it would involve shuttering businesses, with all the psychological, the emotional damage that lockdown of that kind brings.
Once again, all of these criticisms can be laid at Boris Johnson's door once again. He's the same mentality with Brexit. One day he's saying Brexit is going to be fantastic. The next day, yeah, we're going to muddle through. Then back to it's going to be fantastic again. It's complete incoherence. This is the policy. Incoherence and U-turns.
He can't say how many circuit breakers he thinks would be necessary. He can't say how long they would go on. He can't say how much damage.
Which is actually interesting because Boris Johnson said that the lockdown should last until the 2nd of December. But Michael Gove came out not that much later and said, actually, it may be indefinite. It may be extended beyond December.
They would do to the UK economy and to people's mental health, Mr. Speaker. We, on the other hand, want to go on with our commonsensical approach, which is a local and a regional approach, keeping kids.
So that was so what changed, Boris? I think it was Sage had been continually telling you need to do something. Your local lockdowns, your what weren't even called lockdowns, just restrictions. Your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 1 plus, whatever, was not working. Some of the measures that you took after the first wave helped spread the virus. For example, the Eat Out to Help Out, an absolute disaster. The opposition said we need to have a circuit breaker. You said that it was a ridiculous idea. And now you're doing exactly what they said.
Kids in school, keeping our economy moving, because that is the way to get the whole of our country through this crisis together. There are those who say that on that logic we should go back into a full national lockdown of indefinite duration, closing schools and businesses, telling people again to stay at home as we did in March, once again shuttering our lives and our society. I do not believe that would be the right course. We would not only be depriving our children of their education, we would do such damage to our economy as to erode our long-term ability to fund the NHS and other crucial public services.
Which you're doing now. You criticize the other side for suggesting this, and you're doing exactly the thing that you criticize them for.
It is the height of absurdity, Mr. Speaker, that he stands up and attacks the economic consequences of the measures that we're obliged to take across some parts of the country when he wants to turn the lights out with a...
He wants to turn the lights out. Who's turning out the lights now, Boris?
Full national lockdown, taking kids That was his policy last week anyway, wasn't it? Perhaps he could confirm that's still his policy. Is that what he wants to do? And yes, those measures would deliver, Mr. Speaker, the reduction in the R locally, regionally that we need in order to avert what none of us want to see, except now the right honourable gentleman having...
I hope Keir Starmer is watching this or re-watching this.
Performed this extraordinary U-turn. None of us want to see...
So he's blaming Keir Starmer for doing a U-turn. Boris U-turn Johnson. Boris has done more U-turns than a lost person in IKEA. Boris, you can't criticize others for doing U-turns when you're doing them every week. But this is typical of Boris Johnson. Blame others for actions that you're taking yourself.
And that is the disaster, the words of the shadow health spokesman, of a national lockdown. We don't want to go there. We want the regional approach. He should cooperate with it.
And of course, this is once again typical Boris Johnson of criticize, ignore the question when there's a question presented, and then ask for unity. Join us. Become part of our team. So that when we sink, you'll be sunk as well. Boris Johnson didn't go along with the lockdown. Why was he dragging his feet? Why did he not want to go down that road? I think, and once again, this is speculation on my part, but I think it's strongly supported. Boris Johnson didn't want to go down with a lockdown because he was afraid of his backbenchers. His backbenchers have been putting pressure on him for a long time now to avoid a lockdown, because businesses that support them, that business people who vote for the Conservative Party, don't want a lockdown, and they've been putting pressure on their MPs, and therefore those MPs have been putting a lot of pressure on Boris Johnson's government to avoid a lockdown. I do not believe for 1 second that SAGE or the experts who have been advising the government since the beginning have been telling Boris Johnson, no, it's better to do some sort of half-arsed regional approach instead of doing a full lockdown. And probably the most disgusting part of all of this is that Boris Johnson knew, and I said this at the time, I said Boris Johnson knows he's going to have to do a lockdown at some stage. If the case numbers are going up and the tier 1, 2, 3, whatever is not working, it's not bringing the numbers down, you're going to have to do a lockdown. Boris Johnson knew he would have to do a lockdown. When the opposition suggested a circuit breaker, and he criticized it, he knew he was being disingenuous. He knew he was using it as a political football, because he knew after he would have to do that lockdown. And instead of being honest and holding back and not criticizing the opposition, he said he knew in his mind, I'm going to have to do a lockdown, but I'm going to criticize the opposition anyway because I can make some political hay out of it. I can appear tough and hold my approval rating up a little notch before it drops like a lead balloon. Disgusting behavior, but it's what we have come to expect from Boris Johnson. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?